Not only does this guy have income tax problems, he has paternity problems. He has apparently acknowledged that this baby in Arkansas, he is the father. But what he will not do is acknowledge is produce financial records that the judge ordered. So now a judge has ordered him to appear, and if he doesn't appear, she'll sign an arrest warrant for him. And if he doesn't appear in response to that arrest warrant, the son of the president of the United States will quite properly be arrested and brought against his will to a court in Arkansas. I mean, if his name were Hunter Jones instead of Hunter Biden, this wouldn't even be a story. But because he is the president's son, and because there is apparently financial information about his financial involvement with some public utility in Ukraine and money from the Chinese and money going to Biden relatives, and the implication that some of it went to the now president, this stuff is all very, very relevant. And that's why I pointed out to you, there was a time when I didn't want to cover this. I thought it was just, forgive me, but I got to say this, New York Post excess, New York Post sensationalism. I don't believe it is. I believe the Post is onto something. And I believe that all of this is going to come out when Hunter Biden is prosecuted. Now it turns out that Hunter Biden and is good friends with Tony Blinken and his wife. All right. Tony Blinken is the Secretary of State. Tony Blinken has been working for Joe Biden since Joe was a senator. When Joe Biden was spreading the nonsense that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, same nonsense that George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and Colin Powell spread, Joe Biden was spreading it. And who was helping him to spread it? Joe Biden was the chair of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. Tony Blinken was the chief of staff on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and he was spreading it as well. So Tony Blinken is a good friend of Joe Biden. It's not surprising he'd be friends with Hunter Biden. But we learned that Tony Blinken, when he was a high-ranking member of Biden's campaign for president, asked his friend Mike Morell, former acting director of the CIA, to get a bunch of ex-CIA people to opine that the Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian misinformation, and they did. 51 of them signed a now infamous letter, which was all over the place in the last 2 weeks of the campaign. Did it affect any votes? Who knows? But the letter now appears to be baloney. It appears it was just political claptrap. These people have a right to say what they want politically. None of them was employed by the CIA at the time, although some of them had been undercover, and so they didn't use their real names. I don't know if they used their real names on this letter. We'll get a lot more about the letter from Larry Johnson when he's on the show either tomorrow or Thursday. But what's interesting is the connection between the Secretary of State and Hunter Biden, and the Secretary of State before he was Secretary of State asking that a known falsehood be perpetrated, and that the people perpetrating the known falsehood were putting their reputations as former officials in the intelligence community on the line. One of these people I've known since I was a young lawyer in Newark, New Jersey, right out of law school, because he was also at the time Mike Chertoff. Mike went on to become the first director of the Department of Homeland Security before it was even a department, it was an administrative agency. And then he became the Secretary of Homeland Security. He's also the former U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, the Chief Federal Prosecutor in New Jersey. And he's also a former Third Circuit Court of Appeals judge. That's the level of court right below the Supreme Court. He put his reputation on the line by signing this letter. And now the drafter of the letter is saying, we all did it for political reasons to help Joe Biden get elected because none of us can stand Donald Trump. Were the contents of the letter true? He didn't answer. We'll see where all of this goes. Prediction, this will affect Tony Blinken's tenure as the Secretary of Defense of State, whether you like him or not. I don't think he's going to be there much longer. This will rattle the State Department. It's one thing to have Victoria Nuland arguing in favor of an American invasion of Crimea. That's crazy, and everybody knows it. It's quite another to reveal that the Secretary of State was involved in so-called Russian misinformation and making up stories about it during the Trump-Biden campaign.